This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations. Come for the craft beer, bourbon, whiskey, and great drinks. Stay for the conversations. Here's your host, Jonathan Green.
Welcome into another edition of the Bar Conversations, and this is another good one. They're all good, what am I saying? This one is a fun one, though. We talk with Kevin Patterson and Tasting Notes about beer pairings and the grill, because as we all know, the weather's getting a little warmer, and I hope everyone's getting outside, maybe getting to enjoy the grill a little bit. And we also, for our Bar Conversations, talk with none other than country artist and a guy that has his own tequila brand, Jon Wolfe. We'll talk about his career, his tequila, and a whole lot more. It's a fun conversation. You won't want to miss that. You also don't want to miss our taste test, which we drop periodically across our social media at Hop Spirits, all one word, on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're also on YouTube as well. And you can find us at hopspirits.com for all those good things. Let's not waste any more time and get into the show.
It's almost time. Where did I put those? Here they are. It's time for Tasting Notes.
We're welcoming back once again to our Tasting Notes is Kevin Patterson, Cicerone National Beer Judge. He's also the manager of the Beer Trap craft beer store and bar in Lexington. I finally said it right after a few screw-ups there, Kevin. Welcome back.
Congratulations. That's the first question on the Cicerone exam is how do you say this word?
Oh boy, I don't think I've had anything to drink, but you know, sometimes it's hard to tell with words. As we know, words can be hard. But you know what, let's have a little fun on this Tasting Notes. You know, we've talked a lot of beer styles in the past, but you know, warmer weather is hopefully here to stay, or at least some more grilling days where we can get out and about more consistently. So I figured beer styles that go with what you might put on the grill, because I don't feel like every type of meat would probably produce the same type of beer that you would want with it, or maybe the perfect beer. As I always say, drink what you want, how you want it, all that stuff. But sometimes there's things that play better with the flavors. So as someone that also enjoys cooking, I figured you were a perfect person to ask about this.
Right. Yeah, I do love to cook. I love to cook probably more than I love to eat. You know, so that's a big thing of mine. And also, you know, whenever you go through the training, you become a Cicerone. They deal with a lot of beer and food pairings. So you have to understand one, you know, when you think about beer and food pairing, you're just looking at beer as basically being an extension of food. It's made out of the same ingredients. It comes from the same places. It's foodstuffs at its core. The only difference is it's been fermented. And it's a beverage. So they go real harmoniously together. When you're looking at like grilling foods and you know, beer pairing, really what you're looking at is the same basic three things in every beer and food pairing. Number one is intensity. You know, make sure the intensity of the beer matches the intensity of the food. Don't do a summer salad with a Belgian quad. You know, sometimes those won't work particularly well together. The intensities don't match. So summer salads, wheat beers might be a way you go. The second thing I want you to look for is resonance. What type of flavor in the food is going to resonate with the flavor in the beer? In other words, what's your hook? What's something that mirrors up? Does the food have some caramelization? Well, the beer should have some caramelization. Does the beer have a little bit of acidity? Well, maybe the food should have a little bit of acidity. I like resonance, but I don't like to do it with the primary flavors. For instance, like, you know, there's a reason why whenever you go for the dessert course, yeah, let me get the Death by Chocolate cake, but no one asks for chocolate milk in pairing. It's just too much chocolate. So you don't want those really strong primary flavors to be the one that resonates. You want some secondary flavors. So look at the cocoa. What's that marry up with? Probably coffee. So you're looking for a coffee drink with that cake. The third thing I want you to look for is contrast. There's always going to be a balancing opportunity for beer and food, or sometimes there's an opportunity for the food to start telling a story, but it may not tell the entire story. So you're looking for the beer to complement that or finish telling the story. So you look for those three things. And some of the things I like to grill out. First of all, everybody loves a good burger. Mm-hmm. You get that deep caramelization, you got the savory flavors, those meaty flavors. So I look for a beer to kind of do the same. Also, whenever you look at beer and food pairings, even though it says burger, keep in mind the sauce or the cheese that you put on the burger may be the primary flavor. And that's one you have to consider pairing more than you do the actual meat. But let's just assume you're doing a standard burger, you know, 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun type of burger. When you're doing that, let's go for something like an amber ale if you want a little bit of a hop spice in it. A pale ale will work really well too. Go a little bit deeper to emphasize those meaty flavors with a brown ale, with a Bock beer, maybe even a porter could do real well in that situation if it's not too strong. The intensity really matters. I think a lot of beer gurus out there like to pair really intense beers because they're proud of the beers with foods that maybe get overwhelmed by the beer. So for me, I like to take the foot off the pedal a little bit whenever it comes to intensity and say, just go for a standard brown ale, standard porter. No 11, 12% beers are needed here. Just something in your 5 or 6% range would do just fine. You've had a bad day, maybe you just need strong beer, but that's not for pairing reasons. Pair with your mood maybe, but not with the food. Something else I like to do is Baja shrimp tacos. So when you look at a flavor like shrimp, which is a very delicate flavor, you don't want a very bold beer with that. You want something kind of lighter. You can go with a hoppier Pilsner. You can go with a Saison, Belgian Pale Ale. Saisons I like really well because the Baja spices have this kind of strong spiciness to them. And that really works well with those spices that those Southwestern kind of flavors. So I like that particularly well. What are some other things we can put on the grill?
I was going to say, what about a big old steak? What are you going with on a steak?
Yeah, throw the ribeye on there, get a medium rare. That's when you're looking for a little bit more of a really intense dinner course because that's a really robust food. So you can go a little bit stronger with the beer on that one. If you get like a deep caramelization on the outside of that, get a little bit of that char that we kind of like on those fats, you can't go with that porter or maybe a stout that again hits around that 5% range, 6% range. But my favorite pairing, what do the wine people like to pair with a big steak like that? Or Merlot, a big deep red burgundy red wine. So what beer can do the same tricks? Well, it's your Flanders red ales. Your Belgian beers could do real well. A quad would not be a bad choice. So I'm throwing out a lot of options because there are a lot of options. You don't have to just settle for one style. Sometimes if you look at wine pairings, the range of wine flavors, intensities are fairly limiting. But in beer, they go all over the place. So you have a lot of options how to choose. So whenever you're looking at a big, steak like that's usually a special occasion kind of dinner, it may be getting a little cooler outside, even though you're grilling out. So you can choose that beer that has a little bit more of that intense acidity, like a Flanders Red would have, to cut through that fats of the steak. And I think that does real well too. Another meal I like to cook out is brunch. I like to do, eggs, potatoes, and those sort of flavors. So whenever you're looking at those kind of flavors, keep in mind that that's not late night. You're not looking for a nightcap kind of opportunity. You may still have to mow the lawn later, do some things of that nature. So go something a little lighter. Choose that Hefeweizen, traditional German wheat with breakfast foods. And do a lighter Belgian ale. Fat tire would not be a bad choice in a situation like that. So you can do some really nice things. Now, keep in mind, it's not only about the beer and food pairing, it's about the events pairing. So when you're grilling out, where are you standing? You're standing in front of a fire. And so the fire, might be outside. The sun's starting to be down on you a little bit. It's getting a little warmer. So don't be afraid to have some Pilsners on tap just to kind of swig one down while you're cooking. Keep those beers out of the sunlight. If you're going to be outside, if that beer has a little bit of hop characteristic to it, the light will skunk that beer quickly. So if it's an IPA or a Pilsner that's a little bit more delicate, keep it in the shade. Don't leave it out in the sunlight. But don't be afraid to go with something very basic like your standard German lager, American lager, when you're actually cooking food. For me, that's the best part, is getting that little bit of relaxation going on as the meal is wrapping up, and get something cold and bubbly on your throat while you're hearing the sizzle of the steak. And I tell you what, any guy could die happy at that point.
I was gonna say I'm hungry now. That's all I got. I'm hungry now. We're gonna cut this short, and I'm gonna go heat up some good food. And Kevin, I appreciate this as always, because it's always interesting to learn kind of maybe that step further of how you can have a little bit more fun with beer and show things off to your friends a little bit.
And that's exactly, when it comes to beer, they're cheaper than most other beverages, so you can afford to play, experiment, have fun. That's pub talk. That's pub culture. It's just a very jovial and playful way to approach a beverage. You can't afford to do that with all beverages, but you can with beer. There's not a whole lot of mistakes when it comes to beer. So buy your beer, it's yours, enjoy it how you like.
And Kevin, I appreciate the knowledge as always.
Thank you.
Remember to check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here on the Bar Conversations is a country artist. He's also the founder of Juan Lobo Tequila. He's got a new album out too. I mean, this guy's just got everything going on, tours as well. Welcome in, Jon Wolfe. Jon, welcome.
Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate you.
I mean, do you ever stop to do anything? I mean, do you get to breathe, relax, anything like that?
Well, that's a good question. It's kind of funny because I'm getting really bad at social media. So because I'm so busy doing a lot of other things, so it might be it might be something to do with Juan Lobo Tequila. It's usually something to do with a house. Right now we're renovating my mom's house. So I've been over there pulling trim and helping lay floors and all kinds of stuff. And so it's kind of interesting. I do like to stay busy, and I've got a lot of interest, beyond music. And so it keeps me pretty busy, between touring. We're touring full time now. So, we're kind of back on the road but yeah, I'm a pretty busy guy, man. But thanks I'm old school though. That's what I'll tell you. The best way to catch me is doing exactly what you're doing. Get me to sit down and drink and talk. So this is the best way to catch me.
I like it. And with that, I'm guessing I know what's in your glass, but I'm going to still ask the question. What you drinking tonight?
Well, I'm drinking Juan Lobo Añejo. This Añejo, as we talk tonight, we'll dig into this, but small batch tequila is challenging to sort of, I guess, keep the profiles consistent, and I think, I guess you probably know a lot about the bourbon process, which I'm not going to know much about that, to be honest with you. But
it's honestly not that far off.
Okay.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, when you're launching a new bourbon, that's probably one of the big struggles too, is to keep every batch relatively the same. And I think, so this is new batch Añejo for us. We just imported this at the end of last year as part of a 3,500 case production. The only way that folks will be able to know the difference, and by the way, we're working on the closest we're going to be to you guys will be Nashville, Tennessee pretty soon. But Juan Lobo's growing. We're slowly making our way out there. But those folks that are familiar with Juan Lobo, the original Juan Lobo Añejo had a really shiny foil stamp, and these new labels are printed in Napa Valley on a really high-end digital press. We changed where we print our labels, so this new Añejo will be recognized by this more matte finish foil stamp. But it's interesting because when you age things in barrels, there's only so much you can do at a certain level. Like and especially with CRT regulations in Mexico, we don't have any additives with our tequila, which is how it should be. Mm-hmm. So you pretty much start with a good Blanco and you barrel it. And for us, it's actually barreled in single-use Jack barrels. So we get our barrels from Bluegrass Cooperage. I think it must be in Lexington, man. I think somewhere close.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not too far away. Yeah.
So we have a connection. If you can find me some barrels, I'll come down. I'll meet you anywhere to get them, because you can't get barrels right now.
No, you cannot. Yeah. It is a hard game.
Yeah. So our Añejo's aged in single use Jack barrels, and I think this new batch añejo is further in the process with, we can get about 8 fills per barrel, and we rechar between usage. So it's just very, if folks that are listening that like our añejo, the idea behind our añejo is really to embrace the bourbon influence, I guess, so tequila purists are already drinking Blanco anyways. So I'm not going to piss anybody off by going ahead and saying, hey, I want the bourbon influence in our añejo, the barrel influence. And so I think this particular batch is just really well rounded. The original sort of attribute of the Juan Lobo añejo is big pepper, big barrel, big dried fruit, plum. And so this is just, it still has all that, but it's just it's sophisticated. So I know you want a bottle now. I'm going to have to get you.
I was going to say, because it's funny you say that, because I've got some bourbon tonight, and I was looking, and I was like, what can I have a little fun with? A little Elvis rye.
Okay, all right. I love it. I love it. Perfect.
And for you, how does one end up in the tequila business? I mean, I know nowadays it seems like everyone's getting into the tequila business, but you've been in it for actually a little while now, and you can obviously tell you're passionate about. So how did you get into it, and did it just involve calling up people down in Mexico and seeing where it goes?
Well, in a way, it did. It's kind of interesting that it's I think if I look back on my career as a country artist, country music's a very difficult business, and I've somehow survived over a decade, in this business. But if I look back on when I started out in country music, it's like, I wanted to be George Strait. That was, it was George Strait or bust, man. Selling out stadiums, that was going to be my thing. And it's some of it's luck of the draw, some of it's making bad decisions along the way, or some of it's by choice. But I've sort of maintained a fairly an independent career, and I would say even where I'm at now, 5 studio records and 2 live records, tour full time all over the country. We love our fans. They're amazing. They show up for us, even when I'm not on social media. They still show up. And it's one of those things where I guess you could consider me still a club act. I can play clubs. And so I think along the way, you do think about, okay, how am I going to, anybody should think about the future, I guess. Maybe I think too much about it. But I thought, man, I don't know.
It's smart. It's smart to not just go, I'm going to do this forever.
Right.
Because
you
just never know. You never know.
Right. So it's, I threaten retirement on a daily basis, but at a certain point, I kind of said, okay, is there something else that I can do that can bring another element to my career to give me a back end in my career? And some of that comes from, I've got a finance degree from Colorado State. So I think about things from a business perspective. And so I think at the time it was really just kind of a nickname. It was the name Juan Lobo was kind of floating about, and my manager.
I was gonna say, for those that don't know, that is a riff on your name, correct? And then it just kind of did it snowball from there?
Well, no, the name was kind of around for a while. Playing South Texas, and people would say, "Oh, we're going to go see Juan Lobo." So it was just kind of a nickname, and so, you kind of go, okay. And I was kind of searching for, what this maybe other interest would be, because I'll say this, my true passion in life has been country music. It literally has been my golf, as you could say. Like, you can never master it. You're pissed off at it all the time, but you want to go right back the next day and play another round or go play another show. And that to me, country music just became my lifelong pursuit and passion and love. Right. So, figuring out, and so I've done a lot of different things in my life. I grew up in Oklahoma. I went to school in Colorado, got a finance degree. I lived in the mountains for quite a while. I mean, I used to work at the mountain shop. I was big into alpine climbing, rock climbing, ice climbing.
I said, is there anything you don't do? Is there anything?
We'll get to that later. There's a few things, but yeah, I just kind of had a lot of different passions, and worked for BP, British Petroleum, right out of school on their U.S. Oil Americas trading floor. So I was involved in the trading, commodities trading thing, but when I had the opportunity to pursue country music, it became a infatuation, I guess is a good way to describe it. Maybe an obsession, probably an obsession. So, but I never feel like I worked a day in my life after that. You know what I mean? People say that's like the, that's the cliche. Find what you love, never work a day.
I mean, if it does work, it does happen. It truly does happen.
Yeah. Sometimes when you never work a day in your life, you don't make any money either. So there's that too. But it was one of those things where when I wanted to do something else outside of music, it needed to be a real passion, and it needed to be it needed to feel like it wasn't a job. It needed to be, hey, I can wake up and do this. And so tequila was early on for me. I was probably like most people with tequila, in that I tell a lot of people tequila is like that buddy that you really, the way I describe it now, it's that buddy that you really dig. He's a lot of fun, but he's got a hell of a bad reputation, So the history of tequila in the U.S. Was based on, tequilas that were considered mixtos, which is added processed sugar to the fermentation process. Made for a bad hangover. It didn't taste very good. So for me, discovering tequila in a proper way began just taking trips to vacationing in Cabo, to be honest. I hadn't yet made it to tequila or a Matitan or Arandis or any of those things. Like I had discovered 100% blue agave tequila in Cabo San Lucas. So there was a convergence for me where it was like the name, cool, that the name was around for years prior to the name. Then it was, man, this is good tequila. I can drink this. And some friends of mine, yeah, you can drink it. You don't have to put salt and lime, and it's, it tastes good. And
you don't have to just take a shot. You can actually sip and enjoy.
Right. So that's where I was with it. And, and I basically, I had a friend his wife is from Monterey. And I called Chaz and I said, hey man, I'm going to take a trip to Guadalajara. And I want to visit some producers, some distilleries. And she helped me, put together a trip? And he said, yeah, I think so. So Jessica started helping me out to meet some of these producers. And my first trip, it was game over for me, because I'm kind of a deep thinker about things, and of course I was drinking 100% blue agave tequila. But once I started meeting the producers, meeting the families, going through some of these distilleries, I got lucky and met some people in the industry that started the ball rolling on the educational process. And that's when I went, okay, this is something that I can sink my teeth in, and it can become a passion.
Yeah.
So once those things came together, probably in 2016, it was full throttle, working towards the concept of a brand.
And I was gonna say, I mean, how involved are you? Because for those that don't always know, the tequila has to come from Mexico, from the tequila region down there. That's kind of like Champagne and France, and so to actually produce it and get it, you got to go down there. I mean, are you still going down there? Are you still taste testing and having that fun side of things?
Yeah.
And also, and do you ever get out into the fields and help them, cut down the agave plants and things like that, or do you go, that I might hurt myself?
Well, all of the above, man. I'm extremely involved in the brand right now, and as a matter of fact, we have a really small team. My wife is the marketing director. Jessica, who took the first trip with me, is our director of operations. So she's been with us now for the whole time. I mean, we're going on, I think we were 2.5 years of R&D, and then we're 2.5 years of since we've launched. So, I mean, it's a 5-year, we're half a decade into the tequila pursuit, so we're a small team. Now I've got my head of sales, and who's also from Guadalajara. We've got some brand ambassadors. The team's growing, but it's small. So in terms of at this juncture, I mean, I'm involved daily with the brand. Every production we do, I'm there. When we print labels in Napa Valley, I'm there. So yeah, every single part of the brand, and it goes back to the beginning, creating the bottle shape, the label design, the financing, even cap raise. I'm still raising capital for the brand, so it really is. I'm heavily involved, and I think the knowledge of making tequila is still a daily thing for me. It's interesting because there's only roughly 150 distilleries in existence. And yeah, it has to be, to make tequila, it's got to be in the state of Jalisco, in particular 2 different major regions. There's a few others, but lowlands and highlands, as they can kind of refer to it. And it's one of those things where the concept of it all is pretty simplistic. It's, and the agaves must be sourced from your region. If you're a Highlands tequila company, you can't go buy agaves on the open market. They'd end up being lowlands. So, the concept is pretty simplistic, but once you dive into, there are so many little things that can affect your profile, and once you dive into some of these master distillers, and I mean, it's impressive. And that's why I say, like, I'm constantly learning, and there's guys, the Camarena family down there are just a wealth of knowledge. We've been able to.
I was gonna say there's a science to it. I mean, whether it's a bourbon or a beer or anything, I mean, there's a science to it, and for some of them, a lot of self-taught, and you have the three different versions of the Juan Lobo, the Blanco, Reposado, and then Yeho. I mean, was that kind of the idea, is to kind of build it to those three, or did you just kind of decide that was, and are you kind of going to stick there, or what's the thought process with what you're offering?
Well, the original idea behind a private label, and this is something that maybe could be information for folks that don't know this, but at the end of the day, to become a generational tequila company, and it'll be yet to be seen for Juan Lobo. It's going to be generational. We have to own our distillery, and we have to produce our own tequila and or partner with somebody long term. But the way you begin is you have to find a family, a producer family, or a distilling partner that's willing to make a private label. It's how Casamigos started. It's how, so for us, I knew being a gringo, there's a certain palate for most of the U.S. drinkers, and I didn't. Typically, it becomes a sweet thing, and I didn't want our tequila to be that way. So I wanted to find a family that I could identify with, that I could believe in, that I could form a relationship with, and that I loved their tequila. And I didn't want it to be a mass volume producer. So the key was when I met the Bavanco family. That's the key. And that's what I want everybody to know that watches this, is that while I'm Juan Lobo and I bring the tequila here, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our distilling family. There are 5 generations of agave farmers. They've been making tequila for 50 years. Their nom is Nom 1414. Very well respected in the tequila world. Incredible people. They're family to me. So my mouse might have been in the way here. I don't know if you see that or not.
You're good.
Okay. The tequila's hit me. So it really was important for me. It is about the family that makes your tequila. And if Juan Lobo becomes a bigger and bigger brand over the course of the next 5 years, 6 years, whatever, my goal is to sit with the Bavanco family and say, how do we make a proprietary Juan Lobo distillery to set us up to be a generational brand? So it's really about the producer partner that you can find. And my goal was to find that partner and give them the freedom to help me find these expressions, instead of saying, oh no, more like this or more like this, because I wanted Juan Lobo to be.
They had the expertise. I mean, they've got the years and years of knowledge. Yeah,
that's right. So, I think about myself more like, I'm a big Ralph Lauren fan. If you get a chance, go watch Very Ralph. And Very Ralph talks about his, journey from making a tie and some shirts to this, sort of what's described in in the documentary is you can be it's become an adjective.
Yeah.
Somebody's very Ralph. Wow, that's very Ralph. That's like next level. I don't know if somebody can become very Juan Lobo yet, but maybe someday, right? But Ralph did not go to fashion design school. He's not a tailor. He knows what he's looking for, and he's got a vision for it. And I think that would sort of describe my interaction with the Vivancos with Juan Lobo Tequila. So
I like that.
Am I a master distiller? Do I understand every process? No, no. But I knew on a palate level and the look of what I wanted to go for on the presentation and the palate. So we worked together to go, what does the Blanco represent? And so to answer that question, that was a long way to get to where to answer your question. I wanted a full expression line. I wanted a Blanco. I wanted a Reposado. I wanted an Añejo. It's not where it's ultimately going to end up. I do want to add expressions. There are some experimentation that I want to kind of go through in the coming years with our brand. But right now I wanted to come with a full expression line.
I like that because not everyone does that. With everything, things take time, and that unfortunately, and not everyone has that ability.
Yeah.
And, so it's cool to see that, and I know that tequila is not your only hobby. You kind of touched on it that you're renovating a house and things like that. I think I also read somewhere where you're a bit of an interior design geek, and you go to antique shops and furniture stores on your day off. I mean, is that true?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think that's part of the whole. I like to, I think I've said this a few times. I like to make stuff. I make country music. My new record, Dos Corazones, is very kind of. I would call it like a craft. It's a craft country record, like you would, a craft tequila. I like to make stuff. I like to refurbish stuff. I like to, I guess it started that way as a kid. I was an artist growing up. I painted. I did sketches. I can't do any of that now. I got a few of those left over. I'm like, man, that's pretty good.
Are they going to be? So can you sell those and maybe make a couple extra bucks?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that, but I think it's just creativity, and I think that Amber and I love to, we were designing a home or shifting gears a little bit right now, but so yeah, I think it's just about making stuff, making good stuff, trying to make the best stuff you can. If it's a tequila or or something to do with a interior or a country record. I think it's about making good stuff.
I like it, and you also touched on this. I mean, you're a man of many talents. I mean, you got a finance degree, things like that. I mean, how do you go from getting a finance degree to working in the oil business to a country music man? Like, how does that transition happen?
Well, you can blame Garth Brooks and George Strait for that one. It's I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, and it was one of those things where my stepfather played bass, and my sister still is an amazing singer, and just kind of grew up around music, and no kidding, like, I remember being a kid and Garth Brooks came out, and you go, man, what's this? Because Garth was kind of doing something at the time that, and I feel like that, of course, there's a lot of artists that were doing this in the 90s, and, I'm not bagging on today's country, but I'm bagging on today's country in a way. They had a way to like make stuff that was artistic, had artistic integrity, but was also very commercially viable. Garth did that to me, like the dance. I mean, come on, man. You know, of course, Shameless was a Billy Joel thing, but you know, Much Too Young and you know, If Tomorrow Never Comes. They're almost kind of folk songs. They're Americana stuff that, and I think that just got a hold of me, and I knew that was my deepest passion. I didn't know how to do it though. Honestly, like you know, grew up in northeastern Oklahoma. You know, I didn't know where Nashville was. I had no idea. You know,
You just knew it was out east.
I knew it was out there. You know, but I like to sing the songs, and you know, I started learning the songs on guitar, and again, I kind of fought these different passions. You know, hey, I want to go to Colorado and you know, climb mountains and, you know, live that life too. You know, I got into fly fishing. I love to fly fish to this day. I do. I got my wife Amber fly fishing. So,
man of many talents, many talents.
Yeah, and I don't catch a lot of fish. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm the greatest fly fisherman, but you know, I was kind of into this stuff, these different things, but kept kind of coming back to country music. And so British Petroleum, you know, transferred me got out of school, worked for BP for a few years, and transferred me to Houston. And this was 2004, I want to say, something like that. And it was nagging at me. You know, I was like, man, I got to do something about this. And I had discovered Texas music. I discovered Pat Green. You know, so I knew the George Straits in the, you know, the Garth, and I'd gotten into Willie and Waylon and the Hag and okay. And then I went Texas music, Pat Green. What? Let me hear this.
Whole nother world.
Yeah. So, oh man, so it became my avenue. You know, when I moved to Houston, I literally found some open mic nights, and so I got my guitar and started going to this open mic night in Interloop, Houston, at Kay's Lounge, and from there I met John Evans, Hayes Carl, Ryan Bingham. All the dudes, like I would just kind of that little. There was a scene in Houston in that time frame, 04, 05, 06, 07. That time frame, there was a scene, and it was impressive, man. I mean, it really was. So I ended up I lived with Hayes Carl for a few years as my roommate. I was a fan. And it was awkward the first few nights staying at the...
Wake up and go, wait, it's you.
Yeah. I don't have a lot to say other than dig your music. You know, Hayes and I, of course, became friends over the year. It didn't take long. It was maybe a week or two of awkwardness. We became buddies. But, you know, so there just was a channel and an opportunity for me to get into country music, and it kind of snowballed from there. You know, leave my job, become poor, all those things. You know.
I mean, I'm guessing though that, like you talked about, you kind of had a love of music. I mean, did that come from? Where did that come from? Was it family, you know, who played and did things? I mean, did that kind of just transfer along to you, and as just one of the many creative outlets that you kind of had, or at least was going on around you at the time?
Probably had to, you know, because and I grew up in a Pentecostal church, you know, so I mean it was definitely, it was strict in a lot of ways, my upbringing. I wasn't allowed to listen to, quote, secular music growing up. I'm not kidding, dude. My
No,
mom.
I get it. I get it. I get
Yeah,
it. I've
I
heard
was.
this. Yeah.
I couldn't listen to secular music, but I got to listen to. They would let me listen to oldies and Sinatra, and so my first, and that's really, again, that kind of like I connecting the dots through my life in terms of what I gravitate towards, and even in my tequila, how it shows up is that I guess I fell in love with the crooners, you know, like I was the only middle school kid cranking Frank Sinatra and Harry Connick Jr. I loved Harry Connick Jr., which he's kind of the young Sinatra at those times, like a little more rooted in the, you know, the blues,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and the New Orleans jazz vibe, but he was very Sinatra-esque. Sang a lot of Gershwin and, you know, stuff like that. And so I think it just was music was around me, and the stuff I was allowed to listen to or, you know, was really classic stuff. If my wife and I are going down the road and and they don't have oldies stations much anymore. Like oldies is like Van Halen now, you know.
I was gonna say, you got to go way, way back nowadays. But it's funny because like I grew up, you know, like where I grew up, I grew up in West Virginia, but right across the river is where Dean Martin was born. You know, so like they have Dean Martin days. You know, they still honor those things, and
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of goes back to maybe you're a little bit of an old soul with how things are.
Definitely, man. I definitely would say that. I was, I don't tell a lot of people this, but, you know, part of what shaped my life was, you know, my father passed away when I was young. And my stepfather raised me, but my father passed away when I was 6. And that grows a kid up pretty fast, you know? Like I looked at things differently. I took things a little more serious, I guess.
You grow up real quick.
You do, yeah. So I was probably a little more mature, and maybe I understood Sinatra at the time or something. And so, yeah, man. So I fell in love with the way they sang and the quality in like the class, you know. And so I think that kind of filtered over to, you know, the next thing would have been, you know, and I think at the time Garth Brooks was probably, you know, edgy. You know, he was, because he kind of rocked the boat in country music at the time. He was the guy that people are like, that's too rock for country, you know, which is it's there's always that happening in the genre. But you looking back, it's just very quality stuff, and then you go, oh man, George Strait he's the Sinatra of country music, you know. And I love George, and George wanted to be Merle Haggard when he was younger, you know, and Merle's he had this smooth voice, you know, and I think that's just all becomes a part of what I gravitated, you know, towards. So,
well, and then, I mean, was it seeing Garth? I mean, I think I read too somewhere where you saw Garth in concert, and then you're like, I got to do this. This is where I need to be. This is it. I mean, was that kind of the moment where you're like, all right, career time. This is my path.
Yeah, it was, because it was Tulsa Driller Stadium in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was a teenager, so I was probably 16 so I wasn't playing a lot of these, you know, and I kind of got into country a little later than some, you know, because I went to school, and a lot of these guys, you know, they were, and I look up to a lot of these guys and envy these guys, but that played dance halls and beer joints when they were, 14 years old with their dad's band or whatever. I didn't really do that, but I think right around 16 is when I saw that show, and I went, man, walking out of there, I just couldn't, I just, something inside of me was like, I've got to do this. I don't know what it was about it. And I think it was, again, it just, the passion behind the lyrics, and, you go from the dance to ain't going down to the sun comes up, I didn't drink beer back then, of course, but I felt like I wanted to, but it would take me all the way until, I was 20, I guess probably 25 to actually start pursuing country music, maybe 20, somewhere around.
You're a late bloomer. Yeah. It's okay.
I mean, hey, and I think, but I did a lot of stuff in those years that, again, going to school, living in Colorado, getting my finance degree, working for BP. So I'm sure there's some guys in Nashville that go, geez, I wish I had done that instead of just gone to Nashville when they're 18. You know what I mean?
You had like real life experiences.
Yeah. And I, so I guess the grass is always greener. Sometimes I go, man, if, maybe my career would be up here in the atmosphere if I just moved to Nashville when I was 18,
But who knows? You might not have a tequila.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, you also, you got a new album out, or at least newish. You talked a little bit about it, kind of that craft country, a lot of storytelling on it, and I love that because I feel like that's just, you see it sometimes, but you don't always see it all the time, and I really kind of just love kind of what you tried to do with it. And you talk a little bit about it and how it came together.
Yeah, I think if I look back on, like I said, I'm probably not the I don't know at any point in time in my career that I've been like the toast of the town, so to speak. There's always these big movements and these big things that are happening, be it in Texas or, I'm buddies with, I love seeing Parker McCollum explode, and Parker's a buddy of mine, and I love seeing these guys grow, and you look back on these different, there's the Stapleton thing that happened, and you're going, wow, this is like a thing that's happening. And I've never been that guy. There's never been like hey, today's Jon Wolfe day, I've just kind of tried to stick to my guns, make the best country music I can, and hope. I would love for that to happen in my career at some point where, it's Jon Wolfe Day, where people discover what you're doing.
I had a Jon Wolfe Day. I
you
discovered
did?
it. I liked it.
Hey, good. Okay, well, hell, maybe there's a Jon Wolfe Day that I don't know about. So, but I think every artist that I'm sure, and again, from the guys that are getting big now to the dudes that have had big careers, they all probably got to a point where they said, hey, I'm just going to stick to my guns on my music and do what I can do. And whether or not it explodes on a nationwide level or worldwide level, I can't control that, but I have to just make great music. So that's been my attitude, I would say, most of my career, I would say.
And I feel like like when I think about that, like you're authentic to you, and I feel like that comes through on things, and it's not like you've changed, you've grown, you've done that, but I mean, people know, like there's just a certain, I don't know, a certain something with that you get when you do what you love to do, and eventually, at some point in time that's made a lot of fans and a lot of people happy, because I mean, you're going on tour. You've had countless albums and live albums and things like that. So I mean, you're definitely doing something right.
Sure.
You also got a new single, "A Cowgirl Like You." Is that one a little more personal than some others, or how do you feel about that one?
Yeah, and I think it fits into this record. And I got a little sidetracked on that. I'll come back to that. I guess
I heard that happens with you from time to time.
Yeah, I'm a talker. But so what I meant by that is, like, I think throughout my career, kind of talking about Dos Corazones, throughout my career, I've made these records, of course, that I believe in and I love. And we have developed this amazing fan base, and my fans have always been really good to me, and I hope that I've been the same to them. And I think we've kind of gotten to a point prior to the pandemic where, come see a show at Green Hall, and what I call it is just a big sing along with like 900 of my best friends. I mean, they know every word on every record, and we have this great time. And when the pandemic hit, it definitely, it affected me. It affected me like it did everybody. I mean, you can't quantify one person to the next, like how it, hey, this is worse on me. You don't, there's none of that, but it just affected everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, as we started kind of working through the process of knowing I can't tour and all these different things, I wanted to cut a record that challenged me and challenged the process, and basically gave my fans something different. So I use that example because when we play Green Hall, again, they know all those words, from Boots on a Dance Floor to Play Me Something I Can Drink to That Girl in Texas, I Don't Dance. They know all that stuff. Some Old Bar in the 90s, Feels Like Country Music. They know all that stuff. What can I give them something different and that challenges me creatively? The concept behind Dos Corazones was birthing the entire creative concept in one place, in one location, in a concise amount of time. So a lot of times people work on a record over the course of a year or two, and they write with 25 different people, and they go in and cut all these different songs. And my idea, and then they need an album cover, or they need a video, or they need whatever. My idea was, there's a place that's very special to me and my wife, and it's Terlingua, Big Bend. It's far west Texas, far out west Texas, so what a lot of people call it, because it's pretty far out. I mean, you go out there and you meet some folks that haven't gone to the local Walmart in a long time. I mean, you're out.
They are locals. They are locals. Yes.
Yeah, you're out there, man.
I had those in West Virginia. I get it.
Yeah, you're in the Chihuahuan Desert. And so I had this idea to get my producer, Dave Brainerd, who's Grammy nominated. He's produced everybody. He's amazing. He's an amazing person, musician, writer. And get Tony Ramey, who's from West Virginia.
See, it all comes back around.
That's right. And so me and Tony and Dave, we're going to hole up and just write in the desert in this little house. So I had to find this house, and the house is a little adobe, and it's called Dos Corazones. It's the name of the house, 2 hearts. And the idea is to bring Mason Dixon, my film director buddy from Nashville, and Jeremy Thomas, a photographer that works with Mason. We did stuff together. So we have a history, right? A creative history. And of course, my wife and Mason's wife, Amanda. And, let's go to this house and let's start writing. And you guys film it. Every morning we'll do film work. We'll do stills in the morning to supplement the project. So all the photography, everything would be birthed in one place. And believe it or not, going into number one, it was expensive because, right? So all of my ideas have a price tag on them. It was expensive, but the idea was, to create something, to challenge myself creatively. There's not a mold. I'm not trying to repeat a song I've done before. And we were all coming out of the lockdown. So there was a lot of creative energy pent up. And we all got out there, and it was, at first, like the first day was kind of going, man, this is amazing scenery, but what the hell are we doing here? And each of us had some ideas. And by the second day, we were starting to lock into a routine, and the creative juices were flowing. We were drinking a lot of agave, a lot of tequila, and we ended up writing.
Good things happen. I've heard good things happen when you drink Juan Lobo.
I'm a believer. I'm going to tell you, we wrote the better part of we wrote 11 songs in 11 days. And, sometimes people say, we wrote 11 songs, 11 days. Okay, great. Are they any good?
Yeah,
but
that's subjective, yeah.
Right. I just challenge people to go listen to Dos Corazones, and you look at like 2 Hearts in Terlingua or Western, A Cowgirl Like You, Tequila Sundown, Here's to All My Heroes. All that stuff was When the Good Old Boys Age Out. All that stuff was written in 11 days.
Great song.
Thank you. So that was the concept with Dos Corazones right there, buddy.
Well, and I love that too, because I feel like to some degree, with the pandemic, the quarantine, whatever you want to call this era,
yeah,
that people had time to actually stop, because you're not touring, you're not doing kind of your normal thing, and therefore, like you said, you challenged yourself. Others have challenged themselves, and I'm seeing some cool things that have come out of that, and I love that. And as we kind of wind down our chat and our drink, you're on tour a lot. You do a whole lot. You're a man of many. I could probably say that a whole lot more times. Talents. Do you ever take time off, and do you ever just go, well, I'm going to relax on the couch, or is that a no?
Well, yeah. Amber and I try to chill every night, to be honest with you, and because she's really involved in all of what I'm doing. I guess my businesses would be the word, but very involved.
She might have told me that you like to talk a little bit, maybe.
She said, just get ready. All you got to do is just hit record, and the guy's going to... so she, we have our Netflix and Amazon Prime shows, and so we try to chill every night, and I think that we're big. We kind of schedule out big trips and look towards those. So this year is going to be kind of pedal the metal until January. and then you can come.
So until the next year.
I'm kicking off January with 22 days in Cabo. So that's where you're going to find me. That's going to be my time, my downtime.
But are you going to be working? Are you going to be taste testing things during that time?
I'll be taste testing whatever tequila those guys want to hand me. Of course, I tell everybody, I go, look, man, I love, you can see my tequila bar back there. I mean, I love Juan Lobo. And, of course, I'm a believer in our brand. And I drink it more. I predominantly drink Juan Lobo Tequila. But there's great tequila out there. And as long as it's 100% blue agave, go for it. Test it out. See what you like. So I'll be drinking any 100% blue agave tequila they hand me over that period of time in January. Trust me.
And so I guess I'm gonna wrap up on this. You can find him at JonWolfeCountry.com. Find him on social media. You can find his tequila at JuanLoboTequila.com. What else can folks expect from you the rest of 2022? Because obviously it sounds like you're still going to be hitting places, going on tour, having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we encourage folks to check out the tour schedule. We're kind of all over the place this year. This would probably be the most out-of-state touring that I've done in my career. So come see a show if you can. We do have plans. We're trying to get this record to vinyl, which I think Dos Corazones, and thank you for listening to it, and thank you for taking an interest in what I'm doing in this and in my music, because Dos it's a cool record, man. There's a lot to it, and we want to continue to try to get people to know about it. So there's probably going to be a re-release of Dos with some additional tracks, but a vinyl I think is, and like everything,
old soul.
That's
old
right.
Soul.
So there's probably going to be a vinyl come out, but this year's all about touring. We're going to be opening some new markets for Juan Lobo. We're coming to Colorado here in the next couple weeks. We're coming to Nashville, but tequila, country music, maybe a house renovation in the middle of it all.
Are you going to build a house too? I heard that. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I may just live on the bus. We'll see what happens.
Well, you have a very nice bus, which I while we were talking, I decided to look up. I was like, what did I see to get me onto Jon Wolfe and have my Jon Wolfe day? And it was a guy that I had on previously, Hayden Kaufman, who is an up-and-coming guy, really, really cool.
Yep.
He was outside of your bus, that has the wolf and a very, awesome-looking Jon Wolfe on the side.
Yeah.
And he goes, I didn't get to see him, but I got to meet him, but I got to enjoy his music.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it's a nice bus is all I'm saying.
It's not bad, and I like Hayden an awful lot, and we were on the road going up through the Midwest, freezing our asses off. I told him
it's a little different than Texas. It's a little different than Texas.
Oh, man.
I think he was outside of Indianapolis when that happened.
Yeah, I said, man, I'm sorry. In Indianapolis, I said, hey, dude, I'm sorry I didn't get to hang out the night before. I apologize, but I really do like Hayden an awful lot. And by the way, I renovated the inside of my tour bus too. I don't know, I didn't add that in there.
So a man of many talents, and John, dude, this was a blast. Like I said, JonWolfeCountry.com. Find him on social media. He says, I think he's going to be more involved here soon.
Yes.
You can also find his tequila at JuanLoboTequila.com. John, this was a blast, dude. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for having me.